This is obviously not a better way of adding hi-hats on those, but let's just see if it works. No way. It works! Hello, my friends. Welcome to Prototype Hour. This is the second episode, and hopefully audio is sounding a little bit better. I'm trying to balance just when I feel inspired with setting up my whole recording equipment. Today, we are going to be working on something pretty fun and creative. Ableton Live is a beloved software for music producers, and I want to work with Claude inside of Ableton. I essentially want to make a cursor for Ableton Live and just demonstrate that I can make a little MCP agent within Ableton. So let's see how hard that is. And to start, I want to give credit where credit's due. This user significant suite 53 obviously spent a ton of time working on something like this, and it sounds like they were having a hard time in life, just getting really burnt out at university. They never posted the Git repo, but they did leave a couple great links like this Ableton OSC repo, and so I just want to give them some credit. They've obviously worked on this, okay, and this was 10 months ago, so kudos to them. Let's go ahead and take a look at the plan. I just started brainstorming with Claude right before this. Um, for instance, this is like you create some sort of genre, hip hop beat in C minor, and then it would kind of set it up for you. Maybe also it would just help you organize your tracks, or it could clean up your naming conventions. I know I'm very disorganized when I produce. If you don't know Ableton Live, this is what it looks like. For instance, rather than having to go through here and name this track 1, track 2, track 3, we could have an agent do that. Or I could have an agent go through, find all empty tracks and delete them. That would be really useful. From a music production and arrangement side, having a Claude agent be able to essentially create a melody or a chord progression in the key I want could be very, very useful as well, right? So make a C minor chord or make a 1-4-6 progression. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. But what we'll be working on is, can we make a very bare bones MCP agent that threads itself into Ableton Live? So I have this plan here. I'm basically going to just have Claude work with it. So first we have to get this OS library. And let's look at our first. So the tools to expose, get project info, get track list, create MIDI track. Yep, that's good, MIDI generation. This is awesome. It has everything it needs to start. So let's go ahead and get it to install that. Let me move me over here for now. What I find so fun about this is Claude is giving us the ability to play with our favorite tools. So whatever tool you have that has any sort of integration ability, you can now begin to co-create with. And I think that is such an amazing opportunity. So it needs to create this remote scripts. Cool. Yeah, it just dawned on me as I was walking. I was like, wait a minute, I could build an agent for Ableton. Okay, so I need to restart Ableton. Link tempo MIDI. Ableton OS. So if we go to link tempo MIDI, we should be able to see, oops, we should be able to see control surface, Ableton OS. Very good. So I don't see this. I'm not exactly sure what it means about that. CP server, yes. Of course, Claude is just totally one-shotting this requirement setup. Didn't even have to ask it. I did do some planning work before, so I think that definitely helps. Cool, so we'll test just creating a track first, is what it seems like. Yeah, where would you see that? Cool, so it works. So we're going to test it. We're going to make the server executable. Yeah, see, we didn't even have to restart. That's awesome. We talked to Ableton Live. So we're just setting up the connection first, and then we can start to have fun. Also want to see how many tokens this takes. Create a MIDI track. Let's see. Oh, it did it so fast. It is using quite a bit of. Let me add a drum beat real quick, just to test. Let's also move this to 140. We'll just see that, okay? Well, it seems like it hit play, but I couldn't hear it. Oh, I can't hear. Oh, it's testing play here. Let's try this again. So I can control Ableton Live from. So add music generation. I mean, I think that would be the most fun thing. Yes, I'd like to focus on music generation, creating MIDI clips with specific chord progressions in keys and various bar lengths. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a crazy easy integration. Okay, so it's creating a music theory Python file. It's an engine. Let's take a look. Okay, so it's creating some arrays. Cool, mapping chord types to scale degrees. And then we'll ask it to come up with like a list or a library of the most common chord progressions. So what I'm curious about is how is it going to handle navigation? Does it just create a new track? Does it append to something? We'll see. Does that a clip? Cool. I already came up with a couple. Here we go. Yeah, so it creates a clip. Look at that. So the selector, need to figure that out. We'll need to set the length. So set the length to 4. And also when it plays from the global, it doesn't play each clip. Also, when it creates an empty MIDI track, it doesn't add a default instrument to it, so you can't really hear. So if I were to put operator on this, you can hear it. So let's set this length to 4. Perfect. This one also just seems longer, but it definitely worked. So I think that's kind of enough for now. Maybe we could try a melody, but I want to log the couple issues. First off, when you play, it enables global play, not the specific clip that you created, so you don't hear it in clip view. Also, it's an empty MIDI track, so there's no sound. We need to have a default sound loaded, like operator, etc. But that's fine for now. I just want you to log that. Can you try generating let's try something complicated, a melody that is based off of phi or pi, some random geometric beautiful melody. Let's see if it can handle kind of like complex asks like that. And I suppose what I'll test before is, can you rename every track to, or can you delete any track that has no information on it? We'll try. Here's the melody. Oh wow, okay, let's see. Let's do 8, it's actually only 4. This may not be pretty, but let me put a nice sound. Let's use a serum. Get the most out of our... That's obviously not nice. Let's try something very chill. That's actually kind of cool. Okay, we'll call this beat. And let's just see if we can say... No, just created another one. Let's see what that sounds like. This is just going to be pi now. That's actually kind of awesome. I just want to see if we can handle it. This could go totally wrong. This is obviously not a better way of adding hi-hats on those, but let's just see if it works. No way. It works! Well, I mean, that's pretty awesome. Anyway, interesting little start. I mean, I could imagine kind of running it almost like it could be a plugin, like an actual plugin. But let's say it was like this. and I just wanted it to clean up some tracks, I could imagine being like, okay, remove any track that is empty. No data, no audio or MIDI. And then I could see that being really helpful if you have a big track. Like I'll notice when I'm working on a big project, going back through and like really making sure that nothing is on any track before I delete it is always a little scary, and I would actually trust Claude to do that better programmatically, because it would just know based on the data if there's any information on the clip. So we just created this function in the Python file. Let's see. There we go. I just did it. So I can see that being a really good use case. This is very interesting. All right, so now that we have the command line connection between Claude and Ableton Live, what we're really missing is the actual agent. So without a loop, it's not an agent. And I want to give a shout out to Geoffrey Huntley and this video. I thought this was such a great video, and he gives this really great code snippet here. So I actually pasted the screenshot into Claude. And so an agent is a loop where the LLM can think, decide, act, reflect, chain, and respond. So it can think, it can complete user input, can decide what tools to use, it can act by executing a tool, it can reflect, complete with result, and can chain multiple tools together, and then can respond with context. So MCP is the framework that implements this exact loop. So the MCP will handle the agentic loop, and it will expose tools to Claude, handle the while true loop, lets Claude decide when to call tools, passes results back to Claude, and then lets Claude chain multiple tools. So let's look at the difference here. So where it is now is I'm putting input into the command line Claude, it calls a tool, it does the result, and then I look at it. So it's just this one shot, no reasoning. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to communicate with Claude what I want to do, like make a lo-fi, maybe I'll say like make 4 tracks, add a empty drum rack to one track, name them drums, bass, melody, chords, add some instruments, and then build a C minor melody and a C minor chord progression. You know, you could get really specific with it, right? But so Claude's going to think based on my input which tool to use. It'll reflect on the result, maybe execute more tools, be in this loop until it feels like it's completed it, and then it'll present to me. So we have these tools: chord progression, phi melody, add hi-hat, set tempo. We need to add some other basic ones, and then handle this loop. So let's go ahead and okay, so I paused while it was cooking, and we're checking we just started up the MCP server. We're going to check it out. So I'm learning on the fly, but it looks like we need to use fast MCP instead of this server. Okay, cool. So the MCP server starts without errors. Now we're going to try to get Claude to connect. Okay. So we have it implemented. Async MCP tools. The configuration is already set, so I need to restart Claude. It's going to document this milestone, and then I'm going to restart, and then I'll unpause the video. All right, so I just started a new instance of Claude. Hey there, check out the, what is it, Ableton MCP? Ableton MCP folder and this summary. Let's try out the MCP. Okay, so for it got confused. It thought I was using Claude Code Desktop, but I need to add Claude MCPC add. So let's try that. And it's connected. Let's see if this works. That was probably too advanced of a option to give it right away, but let's see. Oh, I still have to restart, I think. Okay, so the tools have not loaded yet, so I'm going to work on this, and then we'll get back to it. All right, so for whatever reason, Claude was, when it set up the MCP server, it was setting it up with a config file that was geared towards the desktop app. It like forgot that it was this command line interface. And so I went onto Claude Code's website and got this little snippet of how to do it. And once I gave it that and then exited out of Claude Code, it was able to see the tools. And then I said, create a new MIDI track and add a C minor chord progression. And if we go here and we put something like a, let's do analog, turn this down. There we go. So it did it. That's pretty cool. Now, these are the only tools that it has right now. It has just basic connection and state tools, has some rudimentary playback control, track management, musical generation, but it's very, very beginner. Like, I can't even really rename tracks yet. So what I'm actually thinking about doing is just running an agent to consider all the different tools and make a big list of tools. So we can actually, we don't even need an agent for that, but we could run a sub agent and do other things at the same time. So why don't I do this? Run a sub agent to put together a comprehensive list of tools we should include, such as naming tracks, moving tracks, adding instruments, drum racks, playing clips, duplicating clips, etc. let's generate a big list and then have another agent. Actually, let's just generate a big list and then we'll have Mega Claude. While it's doing that, please create a new MIDI track and make a pi melody there and set the tempo to 100 BPM. Let's see if that works. So now I'll come over to Ableton Live, and so hopefully what it'll do is it'll run a sub agent to just work on that background task, and then we're going to go ahead and run our Ableton agent, and there we go. Grab this, same thing, put this here. Pretty sure this is longer. Pretty cool, just that that's in key and random. That's probably the agent too, knowing to make it somewhat in the same key. Very cool. Okay, so here is the agent's breakdown, track management, clip operations, and then there's phase 2. Did good. For instance, like freezing and flattening is a huge thing in Ableton. That's a good idea. MIDI mapping, rack chain selectors. Set track name. See, I think that's super useful. But with relatively low effort, we just created a AI agent within Ableton Live. I mean, to try and even think about doing that 3 years ago, 2 years ago is insane. How far we've come. So I could even imagine this being an actual plugin. I'm sure something like that might exist, but I'm super inspired. See, finding the correct OSC paths is going to be the main thing. 5 to 10 minutes each. Yeah, it's really fast. Set track name. Hey, I'm working in Ableton Live. Can you please rename the tracks in the current session to funny names? Let's see. Yeah, Sir Beats a lot. The funky chicken, bass in your face, wobbly, whip make wobble, snare Jordan, DJ please stop. This is very interesting. I appreciate you all watching. I know these are still rough. I'm going to get them better and get the sound better, the lighting better, get them more structured, but I appreciate you watching and I hope that this could be something useful. I'll put the Git repo up, available, public, if you want to play with it, and drop comments if you have any feedback, if you want to see me continue to work on any of these projects, or if you have a request for one. Happy to build it and appreciate you. Take care.